comment I've heard you say before is to thrive is to stay humble.
Yes.
Can you dive deeper into this?
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, humility is a great trait, but I think there is a stigma about humility. It's sort of, if I was to say to you, someone's a humble person, I think what we mean by that often and what we conjure up in our mind is, I think there's a look, like a humble person sort of looks like this. Or, I don't know. People think it's wearing really, unfashionable clothing or driving a car that's only worth a few $1,000s. Or people think that's what humility is, but nothing could be further from the truth, right? I actually did a study into this. Jim Collins wrote a great book, From Good to Great. And in this, he studies 1,435 companies. I've applied it to churches, by the way, to companies. And so out of that, he narrows it down to the top 500 companies. And then out of the top 500, there's only 11 companies that have had sustained growth over decades. Only 11 companies that have done that. And so he does a study into these companies to find out what the CEOs are doing that is enabling this. What do they all have in common? And now there's so many variables in all of that, but there were 3 things that he found that they all had in common. And this was it, that the CEOs of these companies were humble, they doubted themselves, and they had drive. Now you would think, really? 100%. Because what it is humility isn't us self-depreciating. It's acknowledging that we have got to where we are by the brilliance of other people around us that are working with us. And when you have that attitude, people love working with you. They love it. And the doubt isn't that you're being self-doubting. No, what you're doing is you're opening up some space in your life to say, I don't know everything. And again, people love working with people who have got some room where you can say, hey, so-and-so, have you thought about? And you don't have that look of course, I know everything. No, it's like, hey, that's a good point. Great people love working with those types of people. So it makes a lot of sense to me that these companies that were just moving forward and continued growth year in, year out, were obviously humble people who were able to attract and keep brilliant people. Mm. So you can be the best CEO on earth, but you have to outwork your plans through a great team. Anyone knows that. If you're a great leader, you need a great team. But do you acknowledge that it's your great team that help you? Or do you take all the credit? Because those people don't seem to hold on to their teams, which means they're on a constant rebuild. And when you're constantly rebuilding, not only does it cost you lots of money, but it just takes you a long time to get anything done. Yeah. So to thrive, stay humble. And by the way, if I can throw it in there, relationships, stay humble. Nothing worse than the wife or the husband who thinks that they know it all the time. It's not fun. Yeah. It doesn't make for a fun relationship. So even in relationships, stay humble. People are people, whether it's in a relationship, mum and dad to their children, or in a company, it's the same thing. People are people, and they all appreciate the same sort of things.
If someone's listening to this and they think, oh, I'm not humble all the time, how do they humble themselves? What do they need to do?
It's as a starting point, I think you need to know what your strengths are, but often we don't acknowledge what our weaknesses are. Mm. And acknowledging your weaknesses doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you strong, because you're strong enough to even know what your weaknesses are. There's nothing worse than someone who doesn't know their weaknesses. That's the person that everyone talks about them behind their back, right? But when you know your own weaknesses, people really love that, because it's like, so you're not pretending to be perfect, but you know where you could possibly fail. Yeah. So I would just say, how well do you know your weaknesses? Like if I was to say to someone, hey, what are some of your weaknesses? If you have that moment of hesitation, do you know what that says? You think you're perfect. Right? And people just don't want to work with that person. They're just like, you're dangerous. No, you need to know what your weaknesses are. So that's a great starting point. What are your weaknesses?